Hey, what's up, people? Alright, here we go. New day. Didn't code yesterday. Was distracted. Distracted with something. Distractions. Distractions. Sometimes you get distracted. But, alas, this has to be finished, like, yesterday, so no more distractions, right? Finish this shit so I can be done. Feel that satisfaction of, like, looking at this finished project. Okay, so today I already know what the deal's gonna be. I'm tired from work. Didn't sleep quite enough. Woke up a little bit earlier because it was storming, so I didn't like sleep all the way. Got like 7 hours of sleep. Not the best, not the worst. It was alright. Pretty tired. Drank a lot of coffee. You know the drill. And here we are. Gonna push through it anyway, even though I'm feeling pretty tired. And I was gonna take a nap, but I'm like, yeah, I made the decision. Fuck it. So, no nap today, baby. It's too late for all that. I'm full of caffeine, so it's not gonna happen anyway, even if I wanted it to. Alright, there we go. Timer is set. Devlog is ready. Alright, let's see what did we do last time. We continued population of this list by going through each file to determine which data points need to be saved. We stopped at line 159 in things to do. So let's go ahead, pick up where we left off. We have been making good progress. Check our extensions. They're good to go. And yep, so let's hop over here. Let's put game over yonder. Setup. I don't think we need that open. Alright, so this is where we had stopped. And what's next? Okay, so we got input text. Input text. Okay, so the input text is... What is the input text? Okay, so there's input text and then input text final. So input text is what you are like typing. So if the player is typing out his name, which is probably like the actually the only place it's used in the game, is whenever they're typing up their name, and then when they're done, input text gets turned into input text final, or assigned to input text final. So input text relies on input text active. So basically, on the server side, the game reaches the section where each player creates their name. It changes text input active to true and sends that over the network. Client then receives that data, and then they go ahead and that triggers a while loop, and they are allowed through the event handler to begin typing out their name. They will type their name out all the way through, and then this is going to happen through many while loop iterations because text input active is going to remain true in real time as they type. So this is going to be probably hundreds of while loop iterations. Yeah, so just off of that logic alone, without even looking at any actual code, I'm pretty sure we would need to save the input text because, well, it is not static, it is variable, and it is persistent through multiple while loop iterations and therefore multiple save checkpoints. And like if the client were to disconnect in the middle of typing out his name, then whenever they reconnected, if we didn't load in the saved data or the data that was current at the time of disconnect, then they would indeed not have like it wouldn't restore back you know, to their partially typed name. Is it that important? I mean, not really. It's really not. They could just retype their name, but like there's no reason not to save it. So I would say, I mean, for the sake of just why not, I would say, yeah, we should probably save it. Yeah. So I'll go ahead and say this is going to be a yes. We don't even need to look at the code. Alright, now the input text object is derived from input text. So this one is going to be a little bit more like, I don't know about this one, honestly. Let's see. So input text object is default to none. It is a derivative of self input text. That is going to be a calculated property. So input text object equals self font render. So this, anytime basically we set input text, which is anytime we like append to input text, I think, because I don't think we really append to it. We like reassign it to the new value with the added character that they just added. So if they're like typing out their name, every time they hit a letter, type in a letter, it reassigns, so it recalls the setter every time. And so this is derived. But remember, we said just because something is derived, that doesn't mean that it is, that it doesn't need to be saved. So there is, I'm gonna have to think about this for a second here. So, well, I don't know if we actually can save this, because this is a font object. This is not like a, this is a Pygame thing. I don't think we can actually save this. Does that make sense? Like, I don't think we can actually save this. So that actually might be an issue. That might cause a bug. If self input text object is not equal to none, and self input text is not equal to blank. Self input text is not equal to none. Okay, wait. Okay, so all right, okay. So whenever they reconnect, we're going to recall the input text setter, right? Yeah, because we're gonna reassign it when we load it in. You know, that's what's gonna happen. We're gonna say input text equals whatever the saved value was. That is in turn gonna call the setter, and it's gonna create the object and the object rec derivatively. So like, actually in this case, like we'll be fine. I'm pretty sure. I got a little tangled up there. It's from being tired. My brain's not 100%. It is what it is. So input text object is a no because it's derived. Same thing for input text object rect, because same exact thing. Input text outline rect. I don't even know if this is a thing anymore. Currently not used. Keep it around just in case we decide to use it. Okay, I remember. I had like the outline a different color or something. I don't really remember. Something like that. And we don't really use it. So I don't foresee us using this. I'm like done with the game. I don't really care like what it looks like. It's not really meant to look good. It's really just meant to show off to an employer my technical skills, you know. So we're just going to go ahead and delete this object altogether. Yeah, there's no reason for me to keep that, I don't think. So that one just gets deleted. Invalid key press dict. Okay, now I'm pretty sure this is a static object. It never changes. It is always exactly what it was. So yeah, there you go. It's just a dictionary of some characters like that are considered invalid via the event handler, and we do not need to save that because, well, it's already, it never changes, so it doesn't need to be saved. Light blue color, that's a color, we don't need to save that. Multiple choice text 1 object. Now my philosophy so far is basically all of these objects and their associated rects are not needing to be saved, but I could be wrong, so I'm going to be diligent and just check. So multiple choice text 1 object is default to none. It is derivative of multiple choice text 1 calculated property. Okay, so let's go and see. Let us see. So this is in the multiple choice text 1 setter. I don't like this. It's a little too funky for me, you know what I mean? That's a little better. It's kind of hard on my ears. Okay, so in the multiple choice text 1 setter, we have the... So whenever we set multiple choice text 1, that's going to happen on the server side, and that's going to get sent over. It's going to get received by the client. The client's going to process it, apply the data. Once it goes to apply this data, that's going to call the setter, and then that's derivatively going to assign this multiple choice text 1 object to a font render object. So I'm pretty sure this is basically the same exact scenario as the other object and object rect, to where as long as we're saving the multiple choice text 1 object and reassigning it whenever, or multiple choice text 1 that is, and reassigning it by loading it on a reconnect, then this would intrinsically, like, derivatively set that render object, which is required for it to be displayed properly. And so I would say I think we're safe here. I don't think we need to I think we need to worry about that. Saving this multiple choice text 1 object equals self font render multiple choice text 1 object rect equals self multiple choice text 1 object get rect. I don't want to get wrecked. I don't want to get wrecked at all, dude. And then this says, I don't need to look at any of this anymore. Like, we're good. I think it's quite simple. Yeah, we're good. We do have to do it in a proper order, though. Like, we'll have to do multiple choice 1 and then multiple choice 2, because if we did 2 first, then whenever it ran this setter here, it would errantly calculate that the text 1 object was none, but it's actually, like, it shouldn't be none. So we just have to make sure that we run this in the proper order. Anyway, just, I don't think we need to save this. Six object rect. It's not equal to none. If so, multiple choice 6. Blah blah blah. So this is for draw window main. So yeah, this should already be like reloaded back in by the time this gets run, because the reassignment of values should happen, you know, at the beginning. So this is going to be a no because it is derivative, and it's going to be the same with the rect. It is also derivative, is it not? I'm pretty positive I just saw it, and that it was actually derivative of multiple choice text 1. Yep, there it goes. That's where it gets assigned in the multiple choice text 1 setter. So this one doesn't need to be saved. So we're gonna go ahead and exit out of this and put no. Now we have multiple choice text 2 object. It's gonna be the same thing. Same thing with object rect. But just to be diligent, I'm gonna go ahead and check it real quick. I'm like 99.9% sure. Derivative of multiple choice text 2, so it's exactly the same as multiple choice text 1 as far as like the logic and all that. So there, that's where it gets set, and it's a render object just like the 1 version of it. And yeah, so this one doesn't need to be saved. So let's go over here, and next we have place card sound. Sounds don't need to be saved. They are static. They are never changed. So they're like hardwired into the client script. Prior input text. Alright, this one, I don't know about this one. Do we even use it? Assigned only inside of the self input text calculated property. Therefore, no need for data transfer. Do we actually use it though? Like, we don't even use it. Like, at all. This is not used. I mean, we did project search, so this should search the entire project, right? Yeah, that's Control Shift F, and it's only showing that it's used in old features, things to do, and game, and it's only used here, but we don't actually like do anything with it. So this is actually a dead object. It's not used. So that's a cool thing about going through this. This list, that is, like, we're able to catch these dead objects and stuff. And if you know me, then you know my favorite thing to do when I'm programming is to get rid of dead code. So goodbye. See you later. I don't know why we had that, and why did that just change colors? Why did that make it change colors? Okay, it's not white anymore. That was weird. Whenever you see white text in a non-text file, usually that means something's going on. Something wrong. Not always, but I would say, like, it's a red flag. You need to check it out. Okay. Prior multiple choice text 1 object rect. That's a mouthful. Prior multiple choice text 1 object rect. Like, do we even use this? Accessed inside of self multiple choice text 1 calculated property. The previous self multiple choice text 1 object rect to be compared against the new one to determine whether or not the screen needs to be cleared for proper visual display in the case that the new rect is smaller than the old one. And you know, I think we could probably just use a subset of the entire rect, because, like, well, that may not be true. So let's see if it's actually used. Okay, it is assigned, but is it used? Yes, it is used. It is checked against none, and then it is checked against the, so the prior is checked against the current. That makes sense. Yeah, I know what that's about. That's for Pygame is weird like that, and it's some old school shit. So I didn't even realize though. Do we need to save it? So it starts off at none. It is derivative. So anytime we set the multiple choice text 1, it will inherently get set automatically. So I would say this doesn't need to be saved. It's just like it's completely derived. Once we set the text 1, this will get set as well. And I'll say, yeah, there's definitely no reason for us to save this, because upon reconnect we are going to need to load in this multiple choice text 1, and when that gets set, the setter gets called, and that will trigger this. And this is the only place where it gets checked anyway. So yeah, we don't need to save that. That's derivative. So this is going to be the same thing with prior multiple choice text to object rect, but just to be extra careful what happened there. I didn't highlight it all the way. Let's try that again. Okay, derivative multiple choice text 2. Alright, so this is the same thing. It's inside of the multiple choice text 2 setter. It's the exact same code as the other one, just 2 instead of 1. So this one is going to be a no as well. Alright, now we have prior progression text object rect. So this is default to none, derivative of progression text. It's inside the setter. It is set there. Then it is accessed in the setter as well. If it is not equal to none, then we will check the current against the prior. So this is the same exact thing. This is to see if it needs to be redrawn. Like if the new one is bigger than the old one. If it is, we need to draw a bigger rectangle to contain the actual progression text. Does that make sense? So this is the same scenario, which means it's going to be a no. We don't need to save it. Okay, looks like we already did these. Then we have progression text object rect. Oh, that one's done as well. Sorry. So we got P1 hand text object. Okie dokie schmoky. Let's see what we got going on with this. This one is okay. This relies on the name. It relies on the player's name. It is only run one time. Like, it is created whenever they... Let's see. This is created whenever they instantiate P1 game and P2 game. That will happen on our reconnect anytime the client is run. So this would get recreated. Now, I do have a concern about this because we have to make sure that before this gets run, P1 name is set. So I'm wondering, like, wait a second, how does P1 name get updated? Hold up, swole up. What's... Okay, so we actually reassign it again. So technically we could skip this. Like P1 hand text object. Yeah, this. Oh, okay. Well, there's the if. There's the if prior name is not equal to P1 name. So this makes sure whenever the name gets changed, those get reassigned. Okay, so this is actually a placeholder. I didn't realize that. But given that this is derivative of draw window main, in the case that the player's name has been changed, I would say that yes, this does need. It doesn't need to be saved, because it would automatically be set in the event of the P1 name being set, or P2 name. Well, it's always in terms of P1 because each client calls itself P1 and refers to the other one as P2. That's just the way that we do it. So P1 hand text object. Now, it's making me wonder though about this, with the P1 prior name compared to the actual current name. So we just have to make sure those are properly set on a reconnect. And okay, so I am seeing an issue here. Here's the problem. The problem is, let's just say we this is a little bit complicated. It's not that complicated, but so by default, the player name is just set to like nothing. Then the player creates their name. When the player creates their name for the first time, only when they assign it, that only happens one time basically, then that will cause P1 name to no longer be equal to P1 prior name. So then when right after that, when draw window main gets called here, it's going to enter into this if clause, because P1 prior name is not equal to P1 name. But the first thing that happens is it then assigns P1 prior name equal to name. So this would only run that one time, which means the rendered object would be it would be proper and current. But if we didn't save the P1 hand text object, well, this section is never going to run again. So whenever we reconnect, it's going to, upon initialization, set this text object and all that. It's going to set it back to the default settings, which would basically just be none or nothing. So we would actually have to either save this or rerun this code. Because on that reconnect, even if we loaded in the proper name, this code isn't executed in the name setter or anything. So like, it only is run here in this if inside of draw window main, and that would not be triggered at all on a reconnect, because P1 prior name, if it was saved, that is, would be equal to whatever we change the player's name to. So this is important, and this would cause a bug. So what is the solution? Well, there's a few things that we could do, but given the fact that this clause right here handles so many different objects, this would influence all of this stuff. All of this would refer to P1 name as basically like none or just P1, whatever the default setting is, even after the player had set their name, just because it's not going to get assigned at the point in time when P1 name is equal to the name that they assigned it to. It's going to get run on initialization, and that's going to be prior to that happening, even on a reconnect. So what we would have to do is we basically need to make this if clause get run more often to get run in that scenario. So this would need to be like modified in such a way that we could have a reconnect boolean. We could have P1 prior name not get saved. And if P1 prior name doesn't get saved, then the first time when we reconnected and called draw window main, it would enter into this section and assign all of this stuff. Because P1 name would be loaded in, and P1 name would be just like, let's just say Joshua. But P1 prior name would, since it hadn't been saved, then it would just be none. So the first time we ran draw window main after the reconnect, it would enter into this. I think that is probably the best solution. It is a little bit of a ghetto solution, but I mean, I don't really like to create a new object. Like, creating a new object is sort of one of the last things I would do. I prefer to use what already exists, even if it kind of bends the boundaries of what you would expect that object to, you know, be used for. Like, I don't really know how to describe it exactly, but it's like using one tool as two tools. Like if you're using a screwdriver, you might clear out a hole with it. You're not actually using it to undo a screw, but you're not like using it as a hammer. So it's not so far out of bounds that it's just like, huh? What are you doing with it? Yeah, so I think that's fine. It's a little bit ghetto, but I would say I can tolerate a little bit ghetto. I'm from the South after all, so I do a lot of ghetto shit down here. So this is actually really important. I do want to add a note here, because just in case like we mess this up, I feel like this would cause a big bug, and I might be confused as to like why it's happening. This would be a very subtle bug, and I might not be able to like pinpoint exactly where it comes from. So we're gonna add a note here. We're just gonna say note. We need to not save P1 prior name to the database, because we need this clause to be re-entered one time upon a reconnect. And we'll just say if it were to be saved, then we would never enter this section, therefore we would never have all of the objects properly assigned to be rendered with the new name. It would use the default name, which was like none or something. And I have to piss like really bad, so I'm gonna go use the bathroom real quick. Damn, bro. Fucking ants in my pants right now. Alright, we're back. Let's do this, man. Okay, so that would like make it to where we don't need to save all these objects, because otherwise we would, and that would be silly, right? So I think this is gonna be no, we don't need to save it. See, it's defaultly assigned inside the initializer, but this is gonna happen prior to well, you know what? Hold up, wait a second. If we load it in, yeah, but how would we? Yeah, we couldn't do that. Like when we run the initializer, that has to happen before we can like load any data. Well, we can load it in, but we can't apply it to this instance object prior to the object being initialized. So the initialization has to happen prior to the, well, it is actually P1 object name. So that means we would have had to have loaded in P1 first, and then when we loaded in P1, we would load in the name. I don't know. That's dangerous. It's not that big of a deal. We'll just, I think the better solution is to just not save prior name. Yeah, I just feel like that's a fine solution. Yeah, and there's no need to save prior name. I don't think so. Like prior name is just used for this purpose. Let's check that out. Let's see real quick. Let's just verify that. So let's look up prior name. See, yeah, it's not used a lot. It's literally just used here. That's it. Cool. Perfect. So that answers our question. That means this is going to be no. The P1 hand text object rect, quite certain it's going to be the same scenario. This is derivative of the P1 hand text. It's going to default to its derivative of the object, so there's really no, we don't need to save it. It's the same exact scenario. So this is going to be no. Then we have P1 melds text object. Same thing. So this is going to be a no. Because P1 melds text is derived from the P1 name ultimately. Like it relies on that. So yeah, this is the same exact scenario. So these are going to be no. P1 prior name. Yeah, we don't want to save this one because if we did save it, then that would mess this section up. We need this to be rerun. So yeah, we're just going to not save it. Yeah, either way, like if we did save it, that would just make it to where this section wouldn't run. And like there's no world in which we reconnect and don't want this section to be run. Does that make sense? Yeah. So this is going to be no. P1 play cards text object rect. This is the same thing. P1 play cards text object. Yeah, this is the same thing. Yep. Same scenario. So this one's going to be no. P1 player name text object. Same thing. Yep, same exact thing. So it's going to be no. This one is going to be P1 player name text object rect. It's going to be no. P1 pre-sort play cards text object. That's going to be no. P1 pre-sort play cards text object rect. Same thing. It's going to be no. P1 red 3 meld text object. Quite certain that's going to be the same thing. There it is. Yep. So the answer is no. P1 red 3 meld text object rect is also no. P2 hand text object. Okay, so we're just gonna. So prior name is a game attribute. That should actually be a player attribute. I don't really care to change it though. It's just not that important. So we need to not save both of them, P1 and P2. So I'll just add this note here, and I'll also add it here. So this is P. Why is it white now? Just because I put a comment. Comments aren't supposed to mess up. Comments aren't supposed to mess that up. I wonder why that is. So if I get rid of it, everything's fine, but then when I... Okay, it's fine again. I don't know. That's some sort of bug with VS Code. You notice that? It was white, and then I redid it, and it's not white anymore. P2 player name. No. P2 hand text object. Yeah, this is the same stuff. It's just using 2 instead of 1. P2 hand text object. Yes, there's going to be no P2 hand text object rect. No. P2 melds text object is going to be no. P2 melds text object rect is going to be no. P2 play cards text object is going to be no. P2 play cards text object rect is going to be no. P2 player name text object is going to be no. P2 player name text object rect is going to be no. P2 pre-sort play cards text object is going to be no. P2 pre-sort play cards text object rect is going to be no. P2 prior name is going to be no because we need that section to rerun. So we don't want to save it. P2 red 3 meld text object. P2 red 3 meld text object rect is going to be no. Round end winner sound is no because it's a sound. Screen is going to be no because it's it's run once and that's it upon initialization. So that's going to be no. And all of these time choose multiple cards. All these time attributes. So this is set whenever we modify the associated object as a timestamp to be compared to see whenever we send the data. It is checked against the local timestamp to see which one was changed first. We don't even use this anymore. I thought we used this in the time tube. Wait, what? This is not used in the time tube? Copies from client by time tube. Choose multiple cards. Click card active. Click card. Tube equals these timestamps are checked only on receive side during dir check at line 301. If dir string game and adder name string is in client, get adder game object. Okay, so we access it indirectly. Okay, so this is one of those things we do use it. It's one of those rare instances where there actually is no reference to like that object's namespace. We actually use a compound word to assign it. So that still doesn't tell us though, do we need to save it? So let me just run through the logic how this works. Whenever they change the choose multiple cards in this case to a different value, that is assigned a timestamp at the current time whenever it's changed, and then that is added to the tuple that is transferred over to the other side of the network. Whenever the other side receives it, they compare that timestamp against the current time or the last time that that attribute was updated locally. As long as the change that was made from the other side of the network was a later change, then it would be applied. So therefore, but if it was locally changed after the other side had changed it, we wouldn't actually want to apply it, because it probably like shouldn't be assigned. That value that was sent was old. Does that make sense? I thought we determined we didn't really need those anymore because of the new receive system, the improved version, but I'm not worried about like figuring that out. The question is, do we need to save this value? So whenever we modify it, this whatever attribute, we get that timestamp. Let's say we didn't save it. Well, if we didn't save it, would that cause a bug? Well, I suppose it could, because if we needed it on the client side and the client side did not actually, like, if the client side changed it and then disconnected, and when it reconnected we received it had to compare the two timestamps, the timestamp on the client side would be errant. So I think we would need to load that in, aka we would need to save it, because in that case we might the time would default back to none or like 0, and instead it should be like, you know, the current time or whatever, some later time, and then instead of being greater than the received time, in that case we wouldn't actually apply the received data. It would be lesser than, so it would errantly apply that data. So we do need to save all of the time values, at least in principle. In reality, I don't know. Like, we might not actually need them, you know, like, but I'm not gonna, like, worry about all that. These are very simple objects. It's not a big deal to just save them. It's easy. I would rather just save them and load them, and spend a couple milliseconds doing that than I would not, or like checking every single instance, and it's not worth it. Okay, so colors we don't save. Now we have internal values. These, I think, anything with an underscore that precedes it is probably is related to a calculated property. Now, do we need to save these values? I would say yes, because what happens is client side we receive something, some data, or make a local change that calls a setter for one of these properties. Inherently, that setter, the first thing or last thing that it does is change this internal use form of it with the underscore, in this case underscore choose multiple cards, and it sets it to whatever they set it to. And the getter, for if we were to check the current value of choose multiple cards, would return this underscore choose multiple cards. So if we, let's say we changed it, disconnected, reconnected, and then we check it. If we check it at that point in time, it would be set back to the default value, which would be none, instead of like true or false or whatever it should be. And that could mess up the logic. So I would say definitely this should be saved, and especially because anything associated with an active, an object with active in the namespace, that means that's something that persists and is required over the course of many while loop iterations. So that would interrupt that while loop. So if they're in the process of choosing multiple cards, when they reconnected, if we didn't load this value in, it would get checked by that while loop, and that while loop would break because it wouldn't be set to the proper value. So this is going to be a yes for sure. Yeah. All right, so click card active, that's also going to be a yes. Same scenario. Clicked card, I'll say like yeah for sure. I would say yes. Enter continue text active, yes. Enter continue text object. That I don't know. This one, enter continue text object. So this is a derivative of the enter continue text property. So enter continue text object is a calculated property. So this is in the setter, or that's in the getter rather. In the setter, we set it. So this is derivative of enter continue text object being set. If change attribute this SS or CS is equal to CS. For self underscore enter continue text object. If value is equal to false, so we set it to none. If we're setting enter continue text to none, or the text object to none, okay. This one, I don't know about this one. This one's a little bit more complicated. I got sleep in my eyes. I'm not gonna lie, this one's a little bit confusing because the enter continue text object is actually a calculated property for enter continue text. Ensures that the rect is erased in the case that it is set to none. This property is derivative of the enter continue text active property setter. So this is like a setter that is called by another setter. It's a nested. Well, we can't save this though because it's a rendered object. We can't actually save this. And as long as enter continue text is set upon, but enter continue text doesn't change. So since it's static, and that would that would be like set on the upon initialization at the beginning of the script, the client script, every time the client was run. So on a reconnect or on an initial game starting, it would properly set the enter continue text, which would inherently properly set the enter continue text object, which would inherently properly set the one that we're looking at, the underscore enter continue text object. So therefore that means we don't need to save this. So I will say this is going to be a no, and I want to say I'm right about that. I'm not 1000% confident though, I'm not going to lie. I think that's right. We're going to go with the no. So let's go here, put no. Alright, so now we only have 7 more minutes. We're going to try to get through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, what, 9 or 10? Let's see if we can do that. The final 7 minutes, we'll finish the game file. Time, game state. So this is internal form of game state associated with the calculated property. And I would say this needs to be saved, because it is what is returned whenever we check it. It is basically just the game state. So I would say yes, this does need to be saved. And input text, this is going to also be yes. I don't even have to look at that one, because it's what's returned by the getter. Multiple choice active, that is going to be a yes, I believe. Well, hold up. Wait. These internals don't actually need to be saved though, because they're derivatively. The way it's going to work is we're going to call the setter which on the actual namespace, not the internal namespace. So it wouldn't have the underscore in front of it. And whenever we set that, it would intrinsically derivatively set the internal one. So actually, as long as we just save the base forms of these, let me see if we do, then we should be good. Okay, so choose multiple cards is already saved. Let's see it, click card active. Is that one saved? Because yeah, we end up calling the setter, right? That's how we set the values. We don't bypass the setters. As long as the setters are run whenever we load in the load in the data, it's gonna end up setting these internal objects derivatively. Click card active. Isn't that the one we just looked at? Nope. So that one is saved already. Wait, why am I up here? Oh, I see what. Okay. Clicked card. So is clicked card actually saved? We say no. Why don't we save clicked card? And why don't we save... Why don't we save selected choice? Why did we say no to those? That seems to me like we would want to... Huh. Okay. 135 and 136. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to actually change these first two to no, because we already verified that they are saved. But the clicked card and the rest of them, I'm going to put question marks instead. because now I'm not so sure. So we'll put that we stopped here. So this line 222, and we'll just put C lines number 135 and 136. Yeah, 135 and 136. Revisit these adders. Shouldn't they be saved? Alright, so this is line 222 and things to do. So let's go over to devlog. We're going to put at line number 222. You know what I said? And 222. And things to do. Text. Okay. And we continued population of this list by going through each file, blah blah blah. And we stopped at 12, or actually 101, and that's an hour and 8 minutes. We'll just say an hour. So this is going to be 12:59. Then we're going to stage, commit, and push our changes. That's going to be 1 o'clock to 1:01. Now we're at the root of the project directory. We're going to check the branch. We are on the correct branch, so we can do git add dot to stage, git commit -m to paste in our devlog to create our new commit, which we did. 3 files changed, 73 insertions, 72 deletions. Now we can push to the cloud, which we did. Now we're going to exit out of that. Go back over here to programming projects, Canasta, copy this, change the date to reflect today's date, so 5/4. This is our local backup. We delete that one and paste in the new one, and then we just double check the devlog entry to make sure it is up to date, which it is. And that's it, guys. So yeah, good progress, getting close, almost done with the file. Gonna revisit a couple attributes, but like overall I'm pretty happy with the result, with the progress we made. We didn't get hung up on much, and yeah, we're almost done with that file. After that we have a few more to go. That was the biggest file by far though, so basically once we finish this one, it's gonna be like easy. I might be able to finish this today. In my second session we might be able to be done going through all the files today, which is cool. And then what do we do next? Well, then we just need to finish creating the logic that loads in all that data. So that's going to take a little while, probably a couple days to do that. And I already started that function. It's just going to be one big function. Pretty straightforward stuff. I don't think it's not like rocket science or anything new. It's just like code that we have to add. Should be fairly easy, just a little bit time consuming. Man, and then after that, like that's pretty much it. We're done as far as features. We just have to like tidy up our to-do list, finish that last you know, well, we need to test first because it's been a while since we tested. We did change a lot of code, so we're gonna have to test. Surely you're gonna have to debug some bugs, and then we can move on to like the last final stages of this, and really just get it cleaned up, finish these miscellaneous tasks that I had on the to-do list, and just be done finally. Can't believe it. Crazy, right? Then we got to deploy it. We're either going to deploy it online, or we're going to make it to where like it's going to be web hosted, or you can like download it. I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it yet. I might do both. I might have a website for it where you download it. I don't think it's going to be like a web app where you like, it's not going to be like you play it. It's not going to be like browser based. So that's a new thing for me. So that's actually the next feature. It's not, I mean, it is a feature, but it's not a feature of the game. It's a feature of the project. So that's going to be fun to learn something new. It's going to be a new learning process. Never did that before, and I'm just getting excited thinking about it. But I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to eat a little bit,